So I got the drug dealer on the way. I just used an opiate. I walk out of the bathroom and I collapse on the floor, out, overdosed. And 5 feet away from me was the loaded gun sitting in my purse, hanging out up the top of my purse.
Welcome to Recovery Inspired Hope, where your testimonies empower others. Welcome to Recovery Inspired Hope. And I'm so excited today. I have my favorite recovery rock star here. Everybody has seen her amazing TikTok and Facebook, Miss Sonya. Hello, Miss Sonya. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
So, Miss Sonya, you are out of the Florida area.
Yes.
So I have been seeing you, you are out here at the jail speaking, you are working and serving in your community, you're a mom, you are in a relationship, which you are both recovery couple, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
That is awesome because I find that recovery couples are just the most astonishing people because it's like, man, I mean, one person, yeah, you're a miracle. You beat the odds, but two of you and together, that
Yes.
that says something greater right there. So I want to just ask you a couple of questions to let everybody really like get to know you. Can you tell us a little bit about your recovery background? Like, what was your foundation? How did you start? What worked for you in the beginning?
So initially, the reason I found recovery is because I went to jail, because I had tried like different 12-step programs before I went to jail this last time, because I've been to jail other times, but this time was different. And while I was in jail, luckily, gratefully, I live in a community where the judicial system is very big on recovery. So while I was in jail, I was introduced to a 12-step program. And the difference was I had some clarity, so I was able to hear the message that they were bringing me. So then I was court ordered to treatment where that 12-step program came in there too. So then when I got out of treatment, I already had a foundation in recovery, and all the people that I saw that came into the jail and came into the treatment center I was at were in the room. So that's where I found recovery and still find recovery today.
That is awesome. That was my foundation as well. I'm a 12-step baby. That's, where I learned how to accept myself, how to heal, have healthy relationships with people, all of these things. And so you and is it your boyfriend?
Husband.
Your
Yeah,
husband?
husband
Okay,
of
you're married.
13
Okay.
years.
I wasn't sure if you were married or not. So your husband, so were you guys together when you were like in jail and then went into treatment?
So we were in active addiction together. We've been together for about 17 years now. We were in active addiction together. And then
You do not look like you've been with anyone for 17 years.
definitely, yeah. And we have a 12 and 13-year-old.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Graceful aging there for sure. You got good genes, girlfriend. sorry,
But
sorry.
that's okay. So when I went to jail in the end of our addiction, like the last 2 years of our addiction, our higher power was already working in his life. So he was kind of going through treatment in jail and relapse in the hospital and all kinds of things he was going through. So he was, doing his own thing, and I started doing my own thing. But when I went to jail, it just worked out. Like the timing worked out. He kind of came back into my life at that point in time, and we started to rebuild our marriage and rebuild our family. So it was truly meant to be. I believe it was truly meant to be.
That's awesome. That's an amazing story. And so was his pathway the same way as your pathway?
Yes, it was. He actually came into recovery before I did. So he went to the same treatment center that I went to about 9 months before I went, but he didn't continue to stay clean after that. He relapsed, went to another treatment center after going to jail. And, so he found recovery before I did. But when I found recovery this last time that I was in jail, I stayed. So he already knew where to go when he was ready.
Gotcha. So, okay, being in recovery for a little while, things can tend to get lonely, dull. Like, what kind of tools do you use to keep and stay sober?
I'm so glad you asked that, because when I first got clean, I literally didn't know how to do anything but use drugs. That was the only thing I knew, was getting drugs and using them. So when I got into recovery, I literally did not know what to do with myself. They told me to go to a meeting every day. So I did that. I got a sponsor and I started working steps. And those were the things they suggested, but that was all that I knew how to do. So in the beginning of my recovery, that's what I did. Like I lived at a halfway house when I got out of treatment. So there were other women around me, a sober living house. There were other women around me, which helped me a lot, because the chaos in my head, I had so much, I thrived on chaos. So it helped me to have people around me to keep me grounded at all times. And then as I progressed in recovery and saved money and got an apartment, I had to learn how to be alone and be okay with being alone, because I think my biggest problem, and the reason I used for so long, is because I was trying to escape myself. But no matter where I go, there I am. So being in recovery, like, I've had to learn how to do that. And it's so funny because it takes time. And, it's probably taken me 2 years to get to a place where I'm truly comfortable being by myself and have peace and serenity at home. But now that I have that is like priceless, So what I do today to keep my recovery fresh is I still do the things I did from day one. I still go to meetings, not as often as I used to because I have kids at home now, but, and I still have a sponsor and I still work steps. And today I get to go back and I get to bring a message of hope, just like you said in the beginning, to the jail and to the treatment center that I go into. So those things keep it really fresh for me and kind of given me a purpose in my life.
Absolutely. I feel like you kind of have to find your love language in recovery, right? And mine is absolutely service. Like, as long as I am serving in recovery in one form or another, that is how I stay grounded and find my purpose with it, because it's like I am accountable to those people. If I have thoughts about oh, well, maybe I should go get high or do something, it's like, yeah, but I have to go see some people tomorrow who are counting on me to show up. And that is something that has been able to really keep me thinking, playing the tape through, as we like to say, to help keep me sober. So so speaking as a mom in recovery, now, did you have your children when you were in addiction or in recovery?
So I had my children when I was in addiction, and I managed for a little while before my addiction really got out of control. I tried some different things like switching substances or only using a little bit, when my kids were young. But by the time that they were 3 and 5 years old, I placed them with my mom, because that was the first time Department of Children and Families came after me. And I knew they couldn't take them away if they were with my mom. So they would stay there until they were 10 and 11 years old, because when I went to jail, I was on probation. I went to jail for violating probation, and my probation officer called DCF on me because I got caught falsifying a drug test in his office. Not one of my brighter moments. But anyways, it started me working on the case plan. When I went to jail, I started working on a case plan. So that was what is that? 6 years of my children's life that they were with my mom. And now they've been home with me for 2 years.
So you actually, took the selfless route. I call that the selfless route, when you take your children and you put them in a safe place so that you can go get well.
Absolutely.
Yes. There is a lot of stigma around that. And there's a lot of guilt and shame for moms out there who have done that same exact thing. And I just want to applaud you and thank you from, from me and from your children, that you did the right thing, that you didn't let your ego get in the way, and that you put them first and said, okay, you're going to go stay here in this safe place because mom has to go get well, and that's okay. And that is not a bad thing at all. And you were able to grow that firm foundation in your recovery so that you can have them today in your house and be the mom that you knew you could always be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Like I couldn't be a mom until I could learn to love myself. That was a really big thing. And I knew when I got in recovery that I had to build a foundation for myself before I could bring my kids back home with me. So, because they're learning everything from me. So I have to teach them through my actions. And when I first got in recovery, I didn't know how to do the right thing or make good decisions, so I had to learn those things and build a relationship with myself. And you're absolutely right. And then bring them home so that they could have a foundation based on my foundation.
Right. So, are you honest with your children about your recovery today?
Absolutely. So I believe that, and I'm not blaming anybody for this, but addiction runs very heavily in my family, both on my side and on my husband's side. But when I was younger, I did know that I had a family member that was in addiction, but I just didn't understand about addiction when I was younger. So when I started, I thought that I was just having fun with my friends. I didn't know that it was going to turn me into an addict. But I let my kids know because, although they were with my mom, they went through some trauma. They saw me at my worst. They've seen me falling out on the floor out from an overdose. They've seen those things. So I let them know now that I'm in recovery, if you ever pick up, the addiction already runs in the family. We can't let that happen. I'm very honest with them about my recovery because they've seen the other side. So, I feel like it's the right thing to do to give them the information they need to make good choices.
Absolutely. I'm super honest with my kids about it too. And, my son is, he's almost 18, and he's kind of in that teenage experimenting kind of stage. And, but because I've been honest with him from the beginning, I know that if things get too far out with him and his experimenting, he knows where to turn. He knows where it leads to, and he knows it doesn't have to end like that. Yeah. So yes, I'm all for parents, in recovery being honest with their children about the roads that they went down. So, okay, Sonia. So here's the big $1 million question. We want to know, what is the craziest thing that ever happened to you in addiction?
Okay, I got two things for you. Okay, so in the end of my addiction, like I had told you a few minutes ago, my husband had was going on his own journey. So I was left alone in my addiction. And as any woman who's ever been in addiction knows, as a woman, you can get a lot further in that world when you're by yourself. So that's what I was doing, and I was under the control of the drugs at the time. So I don't hold myself, I don't have shame and guilt for that today. But anyways, so I was dating a guy, a drug dealer guy, and he was pretty sadistic, and he was a very dangerous guy, right? Well, he got in trouble. He got caught with guns. He got pulled over, got caught with guns in my front yard at my mom's house, and he went to jail. Well, when he went to jail, he had like a $50,000 bond, right? And he told me, so we were trying to get him out of jail. It's like $5,000 to get him out of jail. And he told me his friend was going to reach out to me and tell me some story about them on a boat, and whoever this friend was, I needed to talk to because they were going to help me get him out of jail, right? So I'm thinking, okay, it's his friend, whatever. So his friend reaches out to me, right, a couple days or a week or two later, and tells me this story about the boat. And he says, I'm going to come see you so that we can get this guy out of jail. This guy comes in from like Mexico, okay? And when he shows up, I'm thinking that he's going to give me the money to get this dude out of jail. That ain't what he had for me. He had like ounces of drugs, right, that I was supposed to sell in order to get this dude out of jail. Well, mind you, I'm an addict in active addiction, okay? You just hand me a big pile of drugs. What do you think I'm going to do with it? So he made it very clear to me, like, we don't play about our money. We know where your family lives. Like, he made all this clear to me. Well, it was like maybe 2 weeks. I did all the drugs. I had none of the money. And the dude was like, following me around. I was terrified for my life, not just my life, but my family's life, because he told
Right.
me he knew where my family was. So, it wasn't like I could get away from him because he knew the locations that I was at, right? So he would pop up on me every once in a while. And I was just in so much fear and sheer terror that this person was going to kill me or my children. I talked my mom into giving me the money for it. So she gave me the money. We got the guy out of jail. The guy wound up taking care of it. I still to this day don't know that dude's name, where he came from, anything about him. But I just know at that point in time in my life, I was scared shitless. And that was pretty much like almost the end of my addiction. I was in way over my head. Let's just say that. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. That is terrifying.
it
You are
was
so lucky.
for real.
Oh my goodness.
And then the other thing that I want to say, this is the stupidest thing I ever did in addiction. And I held a lot of shame and guilt for this for a long time. So my mom had my kids, and I went over there one night. She let me babysit them while she went out. I want to say it was either her or her boyfriend's birthday. So they went out for dinner and they let me watch the kids. So while I was there, I went into her bathroom or her closet actually, and I stole her gun, took her gun out, called my dope man because I was going to sell him the gun. While the guy's on the way to my house, now mind you, my kids are there, okay? And it's like 9:30 at night. They're going to bed. So I go in the bathroom to use my drug of choice and opiates. And the doors were like this, right? My kid's door was here. The bathroom door was here. So I got the drug dealer on the way. I just used an opiate. I walk out of the bathroom and I collapse on the floor, out, overdosed. And 5 feet away from me was the loaded gun sitting in my purse, hanging out up the top of my purse, while the only person that was there was my children. So that was absolutely the dumbest thing that I ever did while I was using. And I'm so glad that they're okay. They didn't touch it. I don't even think they saw it. But, I held a lot of shame and guilt for that for a
Mm.
while, and unfortunately, there's not much I can do to correct that or amend that other than be there today, clean, and not let it happen again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just keep walking out those living amends for sure. Okay, last question I have for you is, what would you tell a woman who is sitting in jail that, has some charges hanging over her head and has some kids at home and wants to do something different, but doesn't know how?
Yes. Okay, so when I was in jail and I had my kids taken away, I literally thought that that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And what I know today is that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, because sometimes blessings come disguised as really bad events, right? Where it
Mm.
seems like it's the end of the world, but it was what I needed for that seed to crack and for me to start blooming. So, I would just say reach out maybe to somebody who has recovery. If you know somebody that has recovery, find recovery from somewhere. Give yourself a break, because I beat up on myself a lot. Like I just said, I had a lot of shame and guilt, but give yourself a break and give yourself a chance. Your kids will forgive you. They will love you anyways. Take that time and work on you. And whatever it is, you just have to walk through it, because there might be a beautiful, amazing life on the other side of it. And not only that, you might meet somebody that you never knew, like yourself. That was my experience. I had no idea this girl was in here. She was just covered in so much shame and guilt and hurt and pain and trauma that finally, like when I got through to the other side of it, there was just an amazing life on the other side. And I had no idea. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
I love that. I love that. That's what I say too. Like when I literally took this time to work on myself and get to know myself, I finally found somebody worth pouring into, and that was me.
Yes.
And yes. Awesome. Well, Sonia, thank you so much. Let's tell everyone where can we find you? Where can we find you in your amazing social media recovery ministry?
Yes. Okay. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I have a link tree in the bio on each of them. So you can go in between both of them. And soon I'm coming to YouTube.
Yes, yes, yes. And I will put the link for your link tree on here also, so everybody can follow you. Make sure you follow Sonia for some amazing recovery inspired hope. And we will see you next time. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you subscribe to Jamie Tall on YouTube. And we will see you later.